Probably.
I have holes in my pants and I can touch my knee.
What if my boyfriend texts me though?
And then you'll have to pretend that you did. Well, no, he's not. He's just never gonna text you.
Yeah, I start crying. I just start bawling.
How could you say that?
I forget what happened, but the other day, oh no, I had when we were playing D&D, I was not. My anxiety levels were fluctuating. Sometimes I was fine, and then what did I say? I said we were the chosen ones, and everyone started yelling at me. I sank in my chair and I was crying. I started crying.
Did you actually start crying?
Yes, because the anxiety just like went over me, and I was like, "Why is everyone yelling at me?"
I don't even. We were just yelling for most of that. Like it wasn't just you. It was just in general. We were all yelling, but you just happened to say something that made us all yell
right before. Yeah.
Oh man.
No,
we were the chosen ones. Chosen
ones. We were the chosen ones.
We're just chosen.
But no, Josh was specifically like calling me out, and he was like, "We are not the chosen ones. Or something." And
oh, he always does that, old Josh. I don't know who I was with the other day. I was driving back from a friend's house, and I was just in the car with my roommate and someone else, and I don't remember what prompted me to do this, but I was like, "Hey, what did one Frenchman say to the other?" I don't know. I don't speak French.
Oh God.
So dumb.
Aren't those called like anti-jokes?
Anti-jokes,
yeah.
I had a whole slew of them. What did one baker say to the other baker? We are both bakers.
Nice.
What's green and has wheels? Grass. I lied about the wheels.
Okay, I like that one. You're on the spot now. You can't think of another one.
I'm trying to think of a specific one.
Give it up. Give it up.
I'm trying to word it in my head because it's so good. If I can get it, it'll be worth it. It'll totally be worth it.
It'll be worth it.
Give me a second.
We're keeping all this in.
Okay. What do a bike and a duck have in common?
What?
They both have handlebars, except for the duck. Wasn't as good as I thought. It's still good. What do a mouse and a ladder have in common? They're both not a lamp.
I just spit over the mic.
Oh, great. I mean, now you're rubbing the mic while we're recording.
Is that a no?
That's a no-no.
That's a no-no?
No, because you're just going to clip the audio.
I didn't clip it. Let me see if I did clip it again.
Yeah, do it again.
I won't. I didn't know that was a no-no.
Well, I mean, typically you're just not really supposed to, like, tap the mic while we're recording.
You almost snapped. You got your fingers ready to snap, and then you're like, oh, no.
Yeah, I thought about it. I really thought about it. You're about to get it. Yeah.
He's looking at the mic so seductively.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess let's just get into it. I'm Trey Taylor Smith.
And I'm Randy.
And this is Media for the Intellectually Impoverished, where and this is okay. Wait, hold up. This is Media for
Cut.
You do it. You do. I don't think you've done the intro yet.
I haven't. What do I say?
It's whatever you want.
Hi, I'm Randy.
And I'm Taylor. I'm.
Oh, you messed up your name. Come on, you didn't even have the hard part.
Go. Okay, I got that.
I'm Randy.
And I'm Trey Taylor Smith.
And welcome back to Media for the Intellectually Impoverished,
where our goal is to enrich your mediocre lives.
Woo, we did it. That's it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. That's a wrap. Okay, I'll see you guys next week.
I should...
Should what?
No, I was going to say I need to put my iPad on airplane mode as well.
Oh, shoot. That's actually a great idea that I just did.
We both have iPads. We're both better than all of you.
All of you, unless you have an iPad.
Unless you have an iPad. Then you're better than the others.
Yeah, unless you have a better iPad than us, and then in which case you don't exist.
Don't tell us about it. Don't let us know.
Yeah. You introduce the topic. I want you take it. Go for it.
That's too much pressure.
Nah, man, it's so easy. I mean, you're gonna have to talk eventually. Take all the time you need.
Okay, well, today we're going to be talking about cinematography and cinematics, and that's it.
That's it. That's all we're talking about.
No, yeah.
Well, let's define cinematography.
Do you have a definition? I have a definition.
I did not because I wanted your definition.
Okay, well, the definition that I have is the art of making motion pictures. So it's most related to movies and not video games. So,
all of your opinions are irrelevant.
Exactly. There is no cinematography in video games whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
I mean, but it's like it's just making good shots. It's like in photography when you have like a certain composition and specific rules that you follow. It's the same with cinematography, except the only difference is that movies and media like move. Photography doesn't move.
So there are a couple of elements that there's a lot of elements that really go into cinematography. Some of them are like color of the shot, the aspect ratio of the shot, anything that sort of has to do with the visual part of it, which there's so many, like I said, color, aspect ratio, do you have notes for this?
I do have some notes.
Well, you say the words.
Well, I wanted to see how far you could get.
Okay, wait. Okay, color, aspect ratio.
I'm checking them off.
Okay, were those two on there?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so cool. Music, sound design.
That is not part of cinematography. Cinematography is visuals. You just said that.
Anyway, guys, today we're talking about.
Okay, it also has to do with the placement, movement, focus, and lighting were the other ones that I had.
Yeah, lighting. That was the one that I was trying to think of, but like I couldn't. I'm just gonna. So I was lying right there. Yeah, no, this is a predominantly movie thing, so I think you should start us off.
Okay, yeah.
This time.
Okay, so cinematography. I'm going to first be talking a little bit about The Office. So I don't have a bunch on all of these different things. I have a little bit from everywhere. So I want to talk about The Office. The cinematographer was Randall Einhorn. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I listened to the Office Ladies podcast, and so they talk about him a lot. He was very good in having like deeper meanings for specific shots. And one of the things that I really liked was for the talking heads. So you've seen The Office, right? Of course, because it's A1 classic.
Mm-hmm.
But for the talking heads, he had the people in the office who weren't going to go far, who were like only going to ever work at the office and nothing more than that. When he did their talking heads, they had the office behind them. And for people who were going to make it outside of the office, they had a window behind them. So if you go back and you watch the first couple of seasons of The Office, Jim is the only one who, when he does his talking heads, has a window behind him because they had always planned for him to do something better than Dunder Mifflin. And Pam had the office behind her, and so you could see like Stanley working behind her and everything like that. When she starts dating Jim, she is now, when she does her talking heads, she now has the window behind her.
And see, like, I can even picture that.
Yeah.
But it's like something that I never picked up on.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was watching it, it was just like, you don't even notice that like some of them are facing the offices and some that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just notice, like they're talking.
They're just talking, yeah.
It's a comedy show, so you're there for the jokes. So you're waiting for the punchline, and typically the talking head scenes is where you would get a punchline.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, wow, that's an interesting.
And I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
That there was that much thought put into it. It's great, and that's really what happens with cinematography is that it's a lot of planning. Like you can sometimes get good shots, but if you want a great movie, you need to have a great cinematographer who is planning all of this out and has a meaning for everything that they're doing. And so another thing that they do a lot is, I mean, because it's a mockumentary, of a documentary. I know what it means.
It's a mockumentary.
A mockumentary, yes. And so for me, it makes, I almost feel part of it. Like I know I'm the audience, but when you watch it, you almost feel like you're there. And that's a lot because of the cinematography, because of the way that they film it, like with the camera movements. A lot of it is on there's still shots on a tripod. I was about to call them sticks. Sticks is the same thing. There are also a lot of organic camera shots. So like when there's a chase scene or when like something like big happens, then you see the cameraman or you feel the camera move and chase and run with them, and it makes you feel like you're there in the action, like, oh, I gotta see what's about to happen. What's Dwight about to do? What stupid shit is Dwight about to get himself into? And then there's also, because it's a comedy and they make jokes, there's a lot of like panning with the camera. So somebody will say something and then and then you'll see somebody's reaction, or you'll see what they were describing. And that's what a lot of their humor is. But that's because of the cinematography and the way that they had planned it out. And it makes you feel part of it. I feel part of it. I mean, Jim and Pam are my mom and dad.
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. But no, and that's what great cinematography does. It really involves you in the story. And I think that's where we're going to differ when we talk throughout this episode, is when it comes to movies and TV shows, cinematography can bring you even more into it and engage the audience even more. It's supposed to keep you entertained, even when like there's no dialogue or when the main characters aren't moving. There can be motion in the background. There can be stylistic choices with the lighting or camera movements and things like that that will still keep your audience engaged and make you feel like you're sitting there with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I mean, we'll get to it later, but I'm going to be talking about like how in order to include like cinematography, there's sort of the spectrum of like interactivity in a video game. So like the more cinematic the experience, the less interactivity you're able to have, because cinematography in essence needs to be controlled. And so you as a player cannot control as effectively as what the developers want to. You cannot control that cinematography or that cinematic experience.
Yeah.
So if you want a more cinematic experience in your game, you need to take away that control from the player so that you can give them that experience and then hand it back.
Yeah. The other person, this isn't a specific film or anything that I want to talk about, was Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Did I say that properly?
You did Kurosawa. And I was sort of, I kind of made her look this one up because one of the big things I wanted to talk about was the Ghost of Tsushima, which is so great and so pretty.
I mean, but I'd heard of him before in classes, and I've had to watch movies that he directed. And he is a great person to talk about for cinematography because just the style of his films. So he was known for his movement within the frame. His subject a lot is nature. So when like I was saying earlier, when the main subjects aren't moving or when there's not much happening in the foreground, a lot is happening in the background. So he uses rain, snow, fire, smoke, all of these things in the background to catch your attention and just have so much energy within the frame, because without it would feel dead. And that's what happens with a lot of people who don't have great cinematography. You come out feeling bored, or your mind starts wandering away from what's happening in the movie, and you start thinking about, what do I gotta pick up from the grocery store? Like just other things. And
I gotta go to the dry cleaners today.
I gotta go to the dry, and you're not focused on the movie anymore. And it's because something there isn't catching your eye. You've lost that engagement with it. And the other thing is, it needs to be able to not overwork you, because that's another thing is, and this has more to do with cutting mainly than with cinematography, but it has to do with framing in the people in the frame. When you cut from one thing to another, you don't want your audience to be scanning the entire screen. So wherever your subject is, when you cut to the next thing, you want something in that same place. So if in one scene you have your subject in like the bottom right corner of the frame, in the next scene you want something in the bottom right corner to catch their attention again before they start looking throughout the entire picture. Or else they're going to be scanning every time there's a cut and try and find, what am I supposed to be looking for? And by the end of it, become tired and confused and it's just not
It's also like an eye strain thing.
Yeah.
So you'll see it a lot in action movies or action even games, like action cutscenes. When you cut in a fast-paced shot, you want your attention to be on a specific point between each cut. So like you were saying, if you have a cut and the focus is on the bottom right corner, in the next shot you need your focus to stay at the bottom right corner and then move again. But you can place the camera anywhere in the world, and you can have but you just need to make sure that the focus on that next shot is in that same spot so that your audience's eyes don't get tired.
Yeah.
And one movie that does a great job of this is Mad Max Fury Road.
I was about to bring that up, yeah.
All of the action sequences are expertly cut to, if you go back and watch the movie, almost straight down the pinhole in the middle. This is where you'll see all of the action, so that the audience never really has to move their eyes to gain the experience.
And as much as it has to do with cutting and editing and the post-production, it also has to do with pre-production, I feel like, because you have to make those choices that I'm going to make sure that everything stays in the middle of the frame or stays in this part of the frame. So when we get to that point, we have smooth movement from scene to scene. And so, like I was saying, he uses nature, but he also uses huge groups of people as motion within the frame, which ties into this. So he has big crowds and big armies of people running through a field, and then in the next scene you follow this movement through it, and it catches your eye, and it again makes you really pay attention. And one of the things that he does really well is when there's a reaction shot, instead of having one person react to some like horrible news or something funny, he has multiple people do it. So there are a couple of scenes where there's this professor in a classroom and they say something, I'm sorry that I don't know what the line is, but then the entire class suddenly stops what they're doing and looks at him. And that's such a powerful moment when you see all of those people, they're all doing their own thing, they're all making noises, and then when this one thing is said, they all stop and look at him. That gives me anxiety, because I feel like everybody like looks at me suddenly. I'm like, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, just that shot itself just sounds really interesting and like sounds really powerful. Like there's a power to that sudden silence.
Sudden silence, yeah.
Yeah. That's and it sounds like he does a really good job of capturing that.
It's amazing. And one of the other things that I really like that he did was when he was giving directions for like each of the main characters throughout his films, he would have them pick a gesture for themselves, and then throughout the film they would have to continuously do that gesture. So whether it was like them like moving their shoulders, or I don't know, something else, something small, like maybe scratching the nose or something, they would pick that gesture, and then throughout the film they would always do that gesture, so that when you see that character, you know who it is. When you see that gesture, you're like, oh yeah, this is the character that did this earlier, and so you don't get confused with who is who. Because I feel like that happens to me a lot.
Yeah, and especially in like, you know, not to sound like a demeaning way, but like in films, like foreign films, sometimes if you're not a part of that ethnicity, it's difficult for you to discern each character from each other. And even Akira Kurosawa does a lot of his films in black and white, which adds another layer to it.
That's what I find really difficult. And I've tried to, because I don't want to feel like it's because it's like a different ethnicity, and I'm like, I just can't tell the difference. I think everyone looks the same. No. I think it's also in black and white, because then it like you said, it's another layer that just makes you feel further removed than like, because we see everything in color, and we can make these like tiny distinctions, like, okay, this person has like a slightly different skin tone and like maybe like slightly different colored hair and all of these things, so you can categorize them. But then when everything is in black and white, everybody's on the same playing field, and you get a little confused.
Fun fact, did you know that people did not start dreaming in color until the first color TV was produced?
I did not know that, but somebody brought that up the other day, and I was confused. How? You see in color. Why did you dream in black and white?
I think that it's partially because people likely dreamt in black and white, not likely dreamt in color until the black and white TV like film was produced.
Okay.
Right? And then once people started attributing like stories and things like that, and the brain started attributing like telling stories to occupy yourself with black and white, then it was like, okay, well then while I'm asleep, let's do black and white.
Okay.
But then once the color TV was when color TV was introduced, it reintroduced color into storytelling. And so that your brain once again was like, cool, let's put color in dreams.
Yeah. I would like to see a study on that, because
I mean, it's going to be a little difficult.
I mean, not really. I mean, the first movie and film and moving picture didn't come out until the late 1800s. So you just have to go back to like when Abraham Lincoln was alive and ask him.
Hey, do you
dream
in black and white?
Color, or do you dream black and white?
hey, Abe. Abe, let me just
just be honest.
Just be honest.
I got him. I did it. my whole life. This is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life.
Get it? Because he's honest, Abe.
I waited my whole life
For that one joke.
for that. Yes, for
I've been preparing.
that. Come on, you have to say your joke.
I don't know what my joke was anymore. I lost it.
Do you dream in color or in black and white? Okay, but here's the other thing. They took pictures in black and white. So do you think... You know what I think? I think before they came out with colored images and stuff, everything just was in black and white. But that was another part for black and white films. Getting back to cinematography, was the lighting. And so with that, they could do like heavy dark shadows on people when... To show their like inner emotions and desires, and whether there was like this hatred in them, like they would have a huge shadow like across their face, or if they were like divided between good and bad, this big shadow, or they would be completely in the dark or completely in the light. And it's lighting is important too.
Good to know.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Is that all you got?
No, it's not all I got.
No,
you want me to get through all of my stuff and then all your stuff?
Do you have a whole bunch of stuff? Because I can just go. I can go. I'm ready.
I still have 3 more.
You know what?
things.
Let's just go with the flow. I'll take a turn.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want to try and find a segue into something that I said? Let me say the lighting thing again.
Look at us all giggly today. Oh, man. Okay, so when I was first, like when I
was a young boy.
When I was a young man, I was a young
That's
warthog.
a song. What song is that?
When I was a young boy, my father, the marching
you don't know
band,
the song.
to be in a marching band.
You don't know the song.
I don't know the song.
And I chose to make a podcast with you.
I'm sorry. I play video games. Do you know? Do you know what? Do you know?
We're gonna cut all this out. We're gonna make you sound cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you know what there's a video? Do you know what a video game is?
Yes.
Well, I'm stumped. I have lost this argument.
Randaloni on top of it today.
So cinematography is inherently, like I said, something that is controlled by the director or by the developer, whoever is controlling, like, or making these creative decisions.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking through cinematography in games, like, it's hard to pinpoint like what is considered cinematography, what is considered cinematic in a video game, because video games are meant to be interactive, which thereby takes the control away from the developer or the designer to some extent.
Okay.
Right? So I came up with this sort of spectrum. So there are different sort of styles of games when it comes to like being cinematic. Back in like the 90s, people were first trying to sort of take live action and sort of like these turn video games into movies or movies into these interactive video games. The first big example of sort of movies being brought into the video game world is Digital Pictures' 1992 Night Trap, which entails it's a sleepover with its typical 1990s sort of sleepover movie where all the girls have huge hair and all the boys have giant pecs, and you play an FBI agent who is like sort of patrolling this house. I forget the specific circumstances, but basically what you do is each of these rooms is filled with like traps, and it's nighttime, hence Night Trap.
No way.
Basically, there's intruders trying to get into the house to kill the kids, or something along those lines, and you sort of there's like 6 cameras, and each of these cameras has a fully recorded entire movie. It's like an hour and a half long game, and it's just a movie, and the characters are moving in and out of these rooms, and it's your job to go in and sort of check and see if there's any intruders, and if there are, you have to capture them in a trap. It is incredibly difficult because it is very nitpicky, and if you miss too many, you die, and it's very specific. It was sort of this first attempt of giving a better cinematic experience to the gaming genre. It's a poor attempt, and the movie isn't that good anyway. But that's sort of like the under this genre of like interactive movies. It's a movie that the viewer or the player is controlling in some way. And a couple of other examples I would have of that is David Slade's 2018 Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which was released on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an interactive movie. You have some control over it, but overall, every shot, every sort of angle, all of that stuff is decided by the director beforehand, and the story is set out, and you are merely just cooperating with it,
Yeah.
if you say. Another example of that would be Flavorworks 2019 Erica, which was released, I think, exclusively on the Sony's PlayStation, and the same idea. You can control it. This one's better, I think. I played it because you can control it with your phone, right? So you connect your phone to your PlayStation, and you use this app, and you can kind of like control the B-roll and the decisions and sometimes the dialogue that the character makes. And that all falls under this spectrum of like the most cinematically, the most cinematic, but the least control as a player you have, because these stories are already pre-decided.
Okay.
You know, and to sort of like every single extent, these stories are pre-decided, and you're merely just making small decisions along the way. You're not, and what I mean is like you're not controlling the character itself. You're not walking around as the character through this world.
Yeah.
You're merely viewing this world and making the decisions for the character.
Okay.
The next sort of level would be interactive storytelling, which is a genre of games made popular by Quantum Dream's Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human.
Oh, I love
that. Heavy Rain 2010, Detroit Become Human 2018.
So this scale that you have, this is you. This
is me.
Okay.
I came up with this on my own. Just sort of this idea of like the more interactive you become, the less cinematic the experience is overall.
Okay.
I would say. Not to say that there aren't exquisite cinematic moments.
Because that's what I was about to ask you.
Yes, there are exquisite cinematic moments within games, and I will talk about those once I get to them, to that part of the spectrum. But overall, these games are more cinematic because you have less explicit control. So in Detroit Become Human, you play as these three, I think it's three androids, and as the world sort of has to become accepting of the fact that androids have free will.
Have you played this game?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Have you not?
I have.
You have?
I have not played it, obviously. I've watched it again.
Yeah. Do not play video games.
Do not play video games. Do watch video games. So I was about to fact check you. I was like, if you haven't, I'm gonna.
No, I played it.
Okay.
I haven't played through like every single storyline. I just played it once for the experience of it. I bought it in like a bundle of Quantum Dream games. I bought Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human.
Beyond Two Souls. I've actually played that one.
You
okay?
actually played that one?
Everybody? I've
Dang.
actually played that one.
I have not. That's the only one of the trilogy I have not played.
Oh, it's so good.
Heavy Rain was really sort of the first. There was like their first one, not their first game ever, but sort of the first.
It was the first one in this style.
Yeah, in this style, where it's in that one, it's styled like a Saw almost, a Saw type sort of scenario where your son has been kidnapped and you play as the father of the son who's been kidnapped, a detective who's searching for the son, and a FBI agent who is working the case, and sort of popularized this genre, sort of pioneered this genre for all intents and purposes. And it's really fun. I'm not gonna give anything away because I really think that you should just go play it if you haven't, because goodness gracious, it's an amazing twist, fun gameplay style, really unique. But when it comes to cinematic sort of storytelling, like this one you have more control than you would in, say, Night Trap or Bandersnatch, but you still have less control overall, because a lot of these scenes are what are called QuickTime events, which is, I think I mentioned in the last episode, which is you're given a prompt to press a button and then the character does something for you. So you're not directly controlling the character. You're just playing this quick time event, and then if you fail it, and the character does something different. But
So can I ask you, what would you classify these kinds of games as? Like, do they have like a specific
yeah,
title?
interactive dramas is what I would
Okay.
sort of define that as.
So if I look up interactive dramas, it's going to show me all these games?
Yeah, let's do it right now.
Because this
We're on airplane mode.
Well, because this was a conversation that I was having with my boyfriend the other day, because he was really excited about the new video games that he was playing. I was trying to explain to him that these were my favorite type of video games. These are the ones that I watch the most and I would be the most willing to actually play, because it doesn't really require much on my part, much control on my part, which I like, because I am not hand-eye coordinated, so I can't play like shooting games or anything like that, because you have to, I'm sure you'll get into it, you have to like move the camera yourself and you have to like be pointing the gun, and I can't do that. And so I much rather prefer like choosing what happens and then watching it unfold.
Yeah, so I looked up interactive drama. A lot of places, the names vary because it isn't really an established genre. So some people will call it interactive storytelling, an interactive story, but they're just sort of like interactive story, interactive drama. It all sort of boils down to the same thing, where you're not like in complete control of this experience. Like it's preordained to an extent. You can make decisions in it, but overall, like the cinematic experience as a whole is chosen and played out by the director and developers' wishes. But then, at the complete opposite side of the spectrum from the first sort of idea of interactive, like an interactive movie or just like a playable movie, is just a video game, like a cinematic video game, which would be like the Ghost of Tsushima or the Uncharted series or Halo, which is the games themselves have extremely cinematic moments, but overall, you as a player have the most control. It's kind of difficult to describe because in the way that I'm seeing it, in an interactive movie, the other side where it's just like a playable movie, you're just watching it, you're not controlling any of the characters at all. You're just an outside force sort of making decisions. Like you're just like someone's brain. And then in an interactive drama, in the interactive storytelling genre, you're controlling a character, you can move them around, you can somewhat change the camera angle, but in the end, like you're not completely controlling this character. But in an interactive, like cinematic video game, you have complete control over where the character walks, jumps, whatever the character does, minus cutscenes, you have control over. Like you're aiming the gun, you're moving and climbing up and down the pole. You have the most control that these games can offer, right? And there's still cinematic moments, but overall, the cinematic experience is down to what the player decides to do and look at.
Okay. So where would you put The Last of Us Part 2 on this list?
The Last of Us Part 2 would be a cinematic video game.
Okay. Because I would make the argument that it not only has just cinematic moments, the whole video game is very cinematic. I mean, it's the cinematography in it, and this, maybe it's not cinematography then, maybe it's just like game design is really good.
Yeah. So,
but I think that plays into cinematography.
It does, because there's another layer when it comes to video games, because in cinematography, you're taking the real world and what you have in the real world and you're laying it out as a shot, but ultimately you're viewing it in 2D.
Okay.
Not taking into account like really 3D, but who cares?
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
You're laying it out in a 2D format. It's going to be taken in a 2D format. But in a video game, it's 3 dimensions. So you're laying out the entire world that this person can explore, and you have to design that in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. So when I was coming up with like what makes a game cinematic, I had to sort of draw that line between the design of the game and what these cinematic experiences are.
Okay.
What I would consider a cinematic experience in a game is a segment in the game which is overarchingly more cinematic than just playing the game.
Okay.
So as an example, in the Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game styled after the movies that Akira Kurosawa made. It's made as like an homage to them. You're playing I think I mentioned it in one of the other episodes. You're playing like a surviving samurai as the Mongols take over Japan, or this small island in Japan. And your goal is to drive the Mongols out. And as you continue to drive the Mongols out, you sort of lose your quote honor as a samurai in lieu of stealthier tactics. So like the honor of a samurai is face your battle head on and fight your foe fairly. But in order to like defeat the Mongols, the main character, who ends up becoming this Ghost of Tsushima, has to like adapt and become more sneaky and use different tactics. And it's based on a true story, and it's styled after Kurosawa's movies in that every time you have a battle, like a major boss battle with someone, a one-on-one boss battle, the camera is completely out of the character's control, right? It is focused on, it have these shots of you and then the enemy, and then it'll have a shot of you and your sword, and you click your sword open, and then the boss battle begins, and then you've drawn your sword, and then you no longer have control over the camera, you're just playing this fight. But it's meant to, this movie is an homage to that style, not the movie, this game is an homage to that style of movie, to Kurosawa's style of movie. And so in those moments, those cinematic moments, it is nearly directly mimicking what Kurosawa would have done to give you this cinematic experience, right? In those moments, you've taken away some control from the player to give this experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
And the same thing in Uncharted. Uncharted is meant as an homage to, and it's kind of funny where these cinematic movies are sort of, at least the two I picked out, were just sort of homages to a specific style of filmmaking. So Uncharted is an homage to like the Indiana Jones movies, right? So this storyline is you're basically a treasure hunter and you're hunting treasure. And then,
What?
Whoa.
No way. Wait. You are a treasure hunter and you're hunting treasure?
Yeah, so
that doesn't make any sense.
But you're searching for like these huge artifacts. In the first one, you're searching for El Dorado. In the second one, you're searching for like something else. But it's one of the staples of the series is these huge spectacle moments. Yeah, but in the first one, you find this giant German Nazi U-boat in the middle of like the Amazon, and then you blow it up with a submarine missile on accident, and then it explodes and then falls off of this waterfall. And that's a huge cinematic moment.
Yeah.
And it's not as big as the rest of them because the rest of them are pretty great.
Give me another one.
In the second one, you start the game. The game starts with you hanging off the side of a mountain in a train car. So the train car is hanging off the side of the mountain, and you have to climb the train yourself.
Wow.
In the middle of Mount Everest, like not Mount Everest, in the Tibetan mountains. And then in the third one, you're in a cruise ship which capsizes and fills with water, and you have to climb up the cruise ship hallways while that's like sideways. So you're climbing up like doors and shit, and to get to the top of the cruise ship, where you then fight off pirates. Not like ARRGH mateys pirates, but like new wave pirates, like the
new wave pirates,
neo pirates. Where they're like, "ARRGH, give me your."
Do they still say "R"?
I don't think so. They're just like,
"Ah." It would have been nice if they would have kept to traditions.
Yeah, but these pirates, pirates
don't care.
Yeah, pirates don't give their traditions. And then also in the third one, you're a stowaway on a plane that is flying over the Saharan desert, and as you get into the plane and become noticed, people shoot you. You accidentally make a car explode, which then sucks you out, makes the airplane explode and crash, sucks you out of the airplane, and you're flying through the sky with no parachute. But big spectacles like that. And then in the fourth one, you start the game driving a boat in a violent storm towards a mountain while like 20 other boats are trying to crash your boat, and shoot you. And then at the very end of the game, spoilers, you have a sword fight, because that one's based around pirates. So you have a sword fight with the enemy, like the big bad guy, in a burning pirate ship.
Wow.
So just moments like that. And I think these toe the line of sort of what I said a cinematic experience was, because you still have like a decent amount of control over your character during some of these moments, but not as much as during like the rest of the game. But it's just these huge spectacles, and that's like the sort of the draw towards them, is these big bombastic moments where you're climbing up the side of a train car that's falling off an edge of a mountain, and it's like the game opens and it's just like it just gets you, and then you're like, well, how did he get in this situation? And then it starts in your completely different area with completely different people, and so it's just those games are great. Those games are great, man.
Yeah, but where did you, if I can ask, if you have an answer, where did you draw the line between cinematography and game design? Did you have a defined line, or you were just like, okay, let's not focus? Because I think it would be, you then just wouldn't be able to talk about like the environments or the lighting very much, because I feel like that's really part of
it is a very gray line, I think, and it comes down to like how much of this is directly intended by the developers.
Okay.
So if the developers directly intend for you to see this moment or see this moment in this way, I would consider it cinematic.
Okay.
But if you as a player are just looking at it, and it's not directly intended by the developer for you to see this, I wouldn't consider it cinematic.
Okay.
For example, if you're just in a level and you're looking at something that looks pretty, that's just game design.
Okay.
But
I'll agree. Yeah.
if you're walking down a path and suddenly the camera pans to the side of your character and it turns your character around to look at this moment, I would say that that is more of a cinematic moment.
Yeah.
So that's where I draw this line between in the sand.
No, when you say it like that, it makes a lot more sense. And that's what comes with cinematography, is that it is so controlled and it's so thought out and planned. So I could see how when you are playing the character normally, you could have maybe a pleasing still frame or something like, oh, the character fits perfectly with what's happening in the background or in the distance or something. But like you're saying, the developer didn't intend that to happen. That was just because you were there at that moment.
Yeah, and it's a well-designed game.
It's a well-designed game, yeah.
Yeah, and actually that kind of brings me to like just a side point. There's like an actual market for video game photography.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that surprises me, and it's why in games nowadays you see a lot of like photo modes. So you can turn it into a photo mode and you can add whatever you want to this mode, and you can sort of change the environment. For example, oh, I forgot to mention this, and it's so cool. You were talking about motion within the frame for Kurosawa. And Ghost of Tsushima, the game takes that and implements it, right? So the main way you find your waypoints, which is where I'm supposed to be going next, which is sort of a staple in open 3D world games, is typically they'll have a waypoint of some sort. Usually you have like a mini map, like on the screen. So like in GTA, you have the tiny little map of wherever you're at, San Andreas or whatever. And it has a little marker on the edge of the mini map where you're supposed to be going, so you know the general direction. Well, they dropped that idea and came at it from a completely different angle. So your direction marker is the wind.
That's amazing.
Right? And so the wind will pick up these particles of the flowers or the fireflies or the leaves or the snow or whatever you're around in the environment and blow it up into the air in that direction.
That's awesome. It is
so great. And
That's beautiful.
And it's a perfect representation of what Kurosawa did on purpose with that motion within the frame. You were talking about rain or other people. It's just that little nod and that just aesthetically pleasing. Like when they showcased that, it was mind-blowing because no one's ever really done that much with particle effects to that extent. You know, they have in the Call of Duty games, in the cinematic moments in the Call of Duty games, they'll have like dust and explosion and fire and stuff, but no one's taken it to this sort of like just beautiful placement. Like because a big staple in Japanese sort of aesthetic is the pink flower blossoms.
Cherry blossoms.
And cherry blossoms, yeah, that's what I meant. And just looking at that and the vibrant colors that you can see when it's the wind is blowing all of these petals into the air behind you, it's the best.
I'm just imagining, and it looks so beautiful in my head.
So pretty, and it's because it's developed by Sucker Punch and released in 2020, July 2020. And their first game in, I don't know, like 7 years. 7 or 8. Their last game being Infamous Second Son, I think 2015, 2014. It came around as when it was a first game on the PS4.
That was their last one, Infamous Second Son?
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, they did the Infamous series.
I know. I thought there was another one after that, though.
No, I don't think so.
Infamous First Light or something.
Oh, well, that was supposed to be... So there's this thing in the gaming industry where they did the same thing with Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Uh-huh.
It was intended to be a DLC, but because of sort of the technicality, it's partially a business tactic to get more money and partially a just like where it was too big of a project for us to make it just DLC.
Oh, okay.
So they created an entirely new game out of it, but the game itself is short relative to the original game. So First Light came out probably around 2016, if I'm saying that. Second Son came around 2015. It was a year after.
Okay.
Year or so after. I need a PS5.
You got $500?
That's probably more than $500.
Oh, I saw it. You can get it at Target starting November 12th. Our sponsor for today.
Our sponsor for today is November 12th.
November 12th.
For $500.
I saw an ad in the Target magazine that said it comes out November 12th, only for $500.
Yeah, but you never want to buy a console as soon as it comes out. You always want to wait until the second or third gen because there's going to be bugs with the console. And they're also going to release like the Pro PS5, which is going to run a little bit better. I'm also waiting for more games to come out because there's
no games really out right now.
There's like 5 games that are on it, and I think it's backwards compatible to the PS4, and you can also re-download games that you've purchased online from the PS4. So there's that, but like I already have a PS4 that runs fine. Might as well just not.
I have a PS4.
Do you?
Yeah.
You actually have it?
You didn't know that I had a PS4?
I thought it was your brother's.
No, it's mine.
Yours?
Yeah.
What do you play on it?
Nothing. That was when I was excited. I watch Netflix.
You watch Netflix? Is it a PlayStation 4 Pro?
No.
How flat is it?
It's pretty flat.
Like how tiny? Is it like?
It's not tiny. It's the PS4. It's not fancy or anything.
Why did you get a PS4 to watch Netflix?
Because not just to watch Netflix. When I got it, okay, we had one and then it got stolen. And then we bought another one because I was like, this game came out and I really want to play it. You know what that game was?
Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, this looks really cool because I was watching some people play it. And then I stopped watching it because I was like, I want to play it. So I went and bought...
Isn't that a great feeling when like a game is so interesting that just watching it is like not enough?
Yeah.
Like watching someone play it, you need to experience it. That's so beautiful about video games. It's just like that feeling of like, I want to experience this world.
There's been a few that have done that. Uncharted 4 has done that. Tale of Two Souls, I did that. There was one recently that I didn't watch. Oh, Last of Us, Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2.
I really want to play it.
There's a lot of backlash for that game, for the ending, for some of the choices that they made during it. I won't spoil it for anyone that wants to play it. I personally thought it was a beautiful game. The ending, I didn't quite resonate with it, and I feel like a lot of people threw that out of proportion because they were mad about something else that happens in the game. I think that, in the end, it's the developers and directors' choice. This is how they wanted to end it.
Yeah.
So they ended it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They did it, and that's fine. And they haven't been like, they haven't like updated it and changed the ending or anything. Like, they're like, this is our story. This is what we wanted the story we wanted to tell, and we told it.
And I know, because before I stopped watching the playthrough of it, I know what you're talking about, what happened that people were very mad about. And I commend them for, like, keeping that. And I don't know what happens at the end. I don't know how it ends. Mm-hmm. But that's very commendable for them to be like, no, this is what we wanted, and we don't care if you don't like it.
At its core, The Last of Us, both 1 and 2, is a story about people dying. Mm-hmm. And people getting freaked out because somebody died. Seems a little bit, haughty. It seems just a little haughty.
Yeah.
For you to be like,
but someone died?
Someone died? Yeah. Someone important died? And I'm just like, yeah, they did that the entire first game. Mm-hmm. The important people died at the beginning. Some more important people were introduced and died in the middle. And then at the end, a lot of people died. And so, like, it's just, get out of your own panties. Play the game. It's fun. It's a great game. It's beautiful.
It is. So that's why I brought it up, because what I had saw was absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
I definitely think it's up there with a cinematic video game. And I think most games that are coming out nowadays that are sort of styled in this gritty, hyper-realistic style are just cinematic masterpieces.
Yeah, well, they have to up the game now. I mean, because they've been doing it, and so they're like, if we want to compete with these people, we have to start upping the game.
But there's also, there's something to be said about allowing your games to be stylized to an extent. And not to say that these games aren't stylized in their own way. I think Uncharted definitely is stylized in that over the top sort of hyper, like I said, hyper realistic.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like everyone's sort of leading towards the same style right now because that's what's selling. It's just this action shooter thing that's just like, oh, that's the game.
I'm sorry, my mind was wandering and I thought of something else, but
What'd you think of?
The Witcher. I want to play it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I have all 3 of those on Steam, but like most people, my Steam library is full of games that will never be touched. Yeah, it's just that's how they get you with those great deals.
Yeah, they recently had a deal. My boyfriend was talking about it because he bought it for like $16 for the Halloween sale that they had on Steam. And I told him not to play it because I wanted to watch him play it. You think I want to play it? I do want to play it, but...
What's the game?
What do you mean? The Witcher.
Oh, The Witcher.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just some other game.
No, because we've both seen the Netflix adaptation of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done a little bit more research and how they created it and everything, and what they're planning to do, which is, they got a lot more coming. Have you watched it on Netflix?
Nope. Like
so
usual,
good.
I spend all of my time watching anime and playing video games.
Henry Cavill.
I will say, Henry Cavill is bae.
Oh my god.
He's. Did I tell you that in order to film that scene when he's like in the bath?
You did tell me this.
Yeah.
But say it again.
Yeah, to film that scene when he was in the bath, he had to dehydrate for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for you to be able to see those veins and those muscles like that, you have to dehydrate your body so your skin tightens around it. And so he said when he was filming that scene, like, and after he filmed that scene, he was just sick. Like, he was just physically ill.
Oh, I feel so bad, but he looks so good.
They do the same thing at bodybuilding. Arnold Schwarzenegger did the same thing.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do bodybuilding competitions, the point is to show off your tan and muscle accentuated body in a way that is just like over the top. So they dehydrate for like a week. Using no water or like minimal water, what you need to survive. And then your body just sort of like sucks into itself. And then since you have such pronounced muscle figure, like your muscles seem huge.
But then I feel like your muscle, I mean, it's not possible. Well, I don't know. A lot of things are possible. But if the skin is shrinking around like the muscle and tightening, then if you like flex the muscle, well, it pops.
Probably one day you just flex too hard and it pops.
And your skin pops open.
I don't.
It's probably not possible.
Probably not.
But I've heard things with like people who like shove steroids. People put something in their muscles to make them look bigger. You've never seen that?
I don't want to see it.
I don't know if it's like, it's not steroids, but it's some kind of like, you know how like people have like boob implants and they put like the silicone in it? I think they put some kind of like silicone in their muscles just to make them look bigger. And I've heard horror stories of people who have like then flexed and it just all comes oozing out. Yeah.
Oh gosh. All I can think of the most I've done to enhance my muscle figure is when I was a kid, I had a Superman costume. And it had 2 things. It had a fan inside the costume so it would blow air to make my muscles look big. And then it had these like bicep implant things that you would squeeze your arm and it would push up this little thing to make your muscles look big.
Aww.
And I was like, I was the toughest kid in school with that garment.
Bullies, if my bullies could see me now.
Oh, good times.
Yeah.
What were we taught? What's the episode about again?
What? I'm just thinking of Henry Cavill now.
Oh,
my God.
man.
But only
You're on the Cavill fever.
But only but only him with the long white hair. There are some people that just look better when they're grimy, when they're like dirty and they just have this grime. And he is one of them. When I see him pristine and playing Superman and all that, I'm like, nah, doesn't do it for me. No. When he's all dirty and like he's been awake for 5 days and he's fighting a dragon. Ooh, boy.
Yeah, that gets me going. That gives me a case of the Cavill fever. Burning up. The only cure is more Cavill.
More Cavill.
Like more cowbell.
I know. Okay. I will quickly just dive into one more thing. I won't do you have more to talk about?
No, I pretty much...
You went through everything?
I mean, I hit my limit unless something else hits my brain.
Okay, then I'll briefly just talk about one more thing that I really wanted to talk about, which I had mentioned before in one of our previous episodes was Citizen Kane. We talked about him before when we were talking about the special effects that they had used for the auditorium scene, the political rally. The cinematographer, Greg Toland, he was a cinematographer for Citizen Kane. And a couple of the things that I just wanted to briefly talk about, because I thought that they did these things really well, and that is what the movie is like known for. Citizen Kane is known for a lot of things, and it's still one of like the most famous movies that you will hear cinephiles talk about. I would really recommend that you watch it, but also if you don't, I'm not gonna hate you.
I know I'll hate you.
It took me a while before I saw it. I saw it sometime in high school. Anyways, one of the things that they do really well is deep focus. So deep focus is when you have everything in frame, no matter how far away it is in the frame, is in focus. So one of the scenes that they do really well with this is when Citizen Kane is a little boy. And his family is like debating a heavy topic that they're trying to make this big decision. I won't go into what it is, so you can watch the movie. You see his mother and this lawyer up in the forefront, signing papers and doing legal talk, while Citizen King, as he's a little boy, is way in the background outside in the front yard while it's snowing, and he's playing with his sled. And you can see all of this in focus, and it really like builds the world for you, and it also like isolates him because he is within like a window, and so you get this feeling that is throughout the film that he is like isolated, that he is somehow he's not a part of everybody else. He's always been like searching for this thing. He's always been searching for like this love and compassion, and he's like never really like had it. And you can only get that when you have this deep focus, because imagine if it was just shallow focus, which is just everything in the foreground is in focus and everything else is blurred out. You wouldn't have that moment. You wouldn't see that this has been something that's been carried with him since he was a young child into adulthood. But they do this a lot throughout the films, especially with other scenes where there's a lot of people within the frame. The other thing about the frame is that it's huge. So there are a few scenes throughout the film where you can see the ceiling. So that means all of the sets that they had to make for this film, they had to put a ceiling on them.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, it is,
that
isn't
is
it?
Really difficult.
Can you imagine being on that film set and like seeing the sets with ceilings? Like you're putting your actors into a box. That's just it's strange. But they had huge framing. So in some of the scenes you can see the ceiling. Not only that, there's one scene that comes to mind where you can see both the ceiling and the floor. The camera is within the ground. They had to like cut a hole out of the ground and put the cameraman down there with the camera so you can see the ground, and it's pointed up so you still see the ceiling. You get to see this whole room. And with that, it drives home this like deeper everything that they do with camera placement and the motion of the camera, and everything is done with a purpose. And that's the thing about cinematography that we've been talking about. Everything is very controlled and is done for a reason. So when they're doing this, they're showing that even though he looks big in the frame, obviously because the camera's looking up at him, he to us looks like this big, powerful figure. The camera is representing his feelings, how low to the ground he feels, how insignificant he feels, because at this point in the movie, he's lost this big election that he was going up for mayor, I believe. And so when you see this, we're down here with what he's feeling, but he to us still looks like he's big and strong and is capable and all of these things. And it's so fascinating to watch. You like see his foot, and then like as he keeps walking further away from the camera, you see his whole body. It's incredible. It's so beautiful. Same thing with the framing of the characters and where the camera is placed. When he is with his second wife, she is seen a lot on the ground, showing her insignificance to him and his power over her. Through a lot of the film, or when she's in it, she's like on the ground seen doing like a puzzle, or she's on the ground like looking through papers and all of these things. She's on the ground a lot while he stands over her. There is one scene, however, where she gets the high ground on him and suddenly they're eye level, and this is when she starts like the power shift between them, when he's kind of given up on his life, and like he's just like, I'm never going to be happy then, and she gets this upper hand on him, and that is seen through the positions of these characters, which is something, this is part of cinematography, and what makes it so great is the meaning that comes with it, that not only intellectually or like emotionally are they now on the same playing field, she is physically on the same level as him, no longer below him. And after that, she then leaves him and the movie progresses. But I just think this is a perfect film that everyone should watch. Again, I won't hate you if you don't watch it, but it is very interesting. It's very different from the movies that we watch today and see today. What is the word? It is intentional. Intentional. And I lost my train of thought. You should watch it just for the intentionality of it, which I feel like we don't really... I mean, we still see it today, but not to this level, to this extent, where it feels like everything was done with a specific purpose.
Yeah. You want to make that, is that your recommendation?
I will make that my recommendation. I did have another one, but I will make Citizen Kane my recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, what was you? You want to just mention your other one?
My other one was 1917, which I personally haven't seen, but I was reading up on it, and so the whole film, my boyfriend really wanted to watch it. The whole film is supposed to be one long take. It's not, but it's supposed to be set up as one long take.
You know, with a lot of like very purposeful editing and such.
Yes, where editing where you can't really tell that it's a cut, where they will like stop filming on a like an image of the landscape or something, so when they can cut that and then put the next scene right on top of it, and it looks like you haven't cut because it's in the same place. If you also want to watch that one, the cinematographer was Roger Deakins. Incredible. He was the cinematographer, and he used a small handheld camera for most of it, because a lot of it is following around the main characters as they're going through these trenches and trying to deliver the secret message to the other troops. And that's movement throughout the frame is another big part of the film, and what keeps the audience's attention and engagement in the film.
Yeah. Well, I guess that means my recommendation. I feel like I'm always sort of behind when it comes to recommendations because I forget.
It was your idea.
It was, I know, and it's a great thing, and I think it's that we need to keep doing it. I just always forget to come up with one until like the last minute.
That's okay.
But I do have a good example for this one. I was going to mention it, and then I never wrote it down, but the 2018's God of War on the PlayStation 4.
I want to play that one too. God, there's so many that I want to play.
Something that was interesting and different at the time is no loading screens. No loading screens at all. Mm-hmm. The entire game is one long experience, and the only loading screens you'll see is when the game is booting up. And they wanted to do that because they didn't want to break the experience. Media for the Intellectually Impoverished is produced by Trey Taylor Smith and Miranda Randy Zabst.
Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at MFTII Podcast, or email us at mftiipodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.